here we have the basic supplies. Nail polish remover, mine is Scourgify Hydrating Nail Polish Remover, nail file, nail polish, top coat, base coat, nail clippers, and a couple cotton balls. So to begin, I am going to trim my nails. There shouldn't actually be much that we need, but let's just see if there's anything that needs to be shortened. You know what? I'm actually really happy with this length, so I'm going to skip straight to filing. You can use a glass nail file or one of these sandpaper style. I really prefer the glass now. They dull too quickly for my liking, and with the glass nail file, I found that when it starts to get dull, you can just wash it, let it dry, and it's pretty much brand new. They last a lot longer. You'll also notice I have a latex glove on my right hand. Nail polish remover doesn't eat through latex. If you have a latex allergy, of course don't use it. I just am not ready to get rid of my right hand's nail polish. So I'm going to just lightly file. And I do prefer to do this while I still have nail polish on, because that way I get a better idea of the complete nail shape. And it's healthy to just lightly file every time you do your nails. It's going to get any rough spots, even things out, and just overall make it look a lot nicer. So somehow, I try to keep a nice square shape for the nails. Somehow they got slightly rounded over the last couple days. And that's good. Now I like to tear my cotton balls into chunks. So these are jumbo cotton balls from Sally Beauty. And I can get about 4 or 5 chunks out of them. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5. And this will probably be enough to remove everything from just one hand. This is my personal bottle of Scourgify, so it looks different than the ones that are currently available on my site. When I get more bottles and I restock them, I am going to be going back to these nice flip tops. And I may even go with this shape again, because I just really like how it looks. So, this is an acetone-based nail polish remover, so you do want to be careful. You don't want to get it on any plastic or anything like that. It can damage things. What's nice about the Scourgify is it does have hydrating stuff in it. When I made it, I was inspired by Zoya's Remove Plus, but I did not like the price tag, so I made one my own. And it removes glitter nicely, even big chunks, even though there's just small chunks right now on my nail. It removes big chunks of glitter pretty easily. Uh-oh, my decal fell off. By the way, currently, pay no attention to those decals. They are still in the works. They will be available on my site somewhat soon, but right now, they are just not ready. It is a little harder to get a grip when you're wearing a latex glove. You'll notice probably that the nail polish, the cotton ball, is sliding around a fair amount in my hand, just because it is kind of slippery and hard to hang on to. I like to just kind of shotgun it the first round, get most of the nail polish off with the remover. You can see this is coming off pretty cleanly. This was 3 coats of Accio lacquer that I was wearing before. And 3 nails are already almost completely clean. I've only gone through 2 chunks of this jumbo cotton ball. If you didn't rip it into shreds, then you might have already been using an entire cotton ball. And obviously there's a lot more that you can use. And you also see that I'm working over a paper towel right now. I normally have a glass work desk. Not great for making videos on because you can see right through it. But if you're not working on something really resilient like glass, you want to have something underneath you when you're working. Otherwise, the acetone, your nail polish remover, can damage it. And I am soaking through my paper towel here, so Don't work on any antique tables or anything like that. It's just going to overall protect it from being damaged. Doesn't protect it completely. Something like a silicone mat would probably be fine. The only ones I have are for baking, and I'd like to continue using them to make cookies. And I would not want to make cookies on them if nail polish remover had gotten on them. So, almost done here. And you know, when you're working with pure acetone, your nails can get that kind of very dried out white stuff around the nails. With Scourgify, you do not get that. I still look really nice and healthy and hydrated. And there we go. A couple little tiny chunks of glitter left on there, but those will probably just wash off when I wash my hands. I'm going to go wash my hands, and I will be right back. I'm back with freshly washed hands, and I notice now on my middle finger I've got a little bit of a hangnail, so I am going to use the nail clippers and just trim that off. I do not like trimming my cuticles. I have heard that it's really unhealthy for you, and mine just aren't that bad anyways, so I don't even bother. But otherwise, we are ready to start painting. I have replaced my paper towel just so that nail polish remover isn't soaking into my very expensive IKEA coffee table. Base coat is really important. It helps protect your nails just in case there's any staining from the nail polish. Since I predominantly use Lucky 13 nowadays, I don't have that issue because when I test, I make sure it doesn't stain. But this one is a hardener. So it helps make my nails a little stronger, which is nice. They can get flimsy. I'm sure there are better brands. I use LA Colors because it's cheap and readily available. So begin by painting your base coat. This is one of those things, since it's clear, you can be a tiny bit sloppy with it. Doesn't have to get everywhere, it helps. There are some that are ridge fillers. I know OPI has a really good ridge filler, so it can help fill in gaps, give you a smoother finish on your nails, which especially if you're using sheer polishes or thin polishes, it'll be really nice to give you that nice, even finish. And base coat dries super fast, so I'm gonna blow on it gently, and I'm ready to paint. Today I am using no more Gallifrey Falls, which is a thermal from Lucky 13 lacquer. So I'm going to begin just rolling it through my hands a little bit. Sometimes nail polishes settle when they've been, sitting on the shelf. So just giving it a gentle roll. Don't shake, or you can introduce air bubbles into it. So I'm going to begin by painting my pinky nail. And you want to make sure you don't get a ton of nail polish on the brush, but at the same time you don't get too little. It really does take practice. I've been doing this for a couple years now, so I know about how much I need. And I like to kind of brush the back side against the neck of the bottle and use just what's on the front there. So I'm actually going to dip again because I need a little more. This is about how much I need for my ring finger. That's a little much. But so you start right at the center, near the bottom, not all the way at the bottom. Oh joy, my camera decided to die, which means I ended up painting my ring finger on my own. But I'll show you again on my middle finger. Again, it takes practice and you need to get to know your personal nails and how much nail polish they generally need. This is about right for my middle finger. So you start near the bottom and swipe to the end. Swipe from that spot again, off to one side, making sure you get all the way to the side. I sometimes have to go around again. And then use that same blob that's near the center and swipe to the other side. And your first coat is almost always going to look a little thin. It's better to have a little too much polish than not enough, because if you drag, it makes it really not pretty, especially if your coats underneath hadn't fully dried. It can drag previous coats. And again, just off to one side, off to that one. Brush off any excess, and you want to make sure to brush off any excess while you're painting your nail, And also, when painting your nail, you want to take that little blob that you did right at the bottom and push it down just a tiny bit when you do your swipes to the side. You don't want to put the blob right on the bottom, and you see there I did almost 4 swipes for the thumbnail, and then just evening out. You don't want to put your blob too close to the bottom or else it can flood your cuticles. And again, that's really hard to clean, not very pretty when it happens. So, my first coat is done. It's generally good to let it sit for a couple minutes, but I've had some camera errors, so I'm just going to go again. It's already been long enough. Second coat, you want to make sure you put that little blob at the center near the back of your nail, again. And just do a couple swipes out from it, and then swipe to even out. Ring finger, you need a little more nail polish than for your pinky generally. Middle finger, a little more polish still. And you can see here, I used a little too much nail polish, so I wiped off my excess on the brush, and I'm just brushing this out. Anything extra is going to stay on the brush. For my index finger, I generally used about the same amount of polish as my ring finger. And when you're doing your thumb, I tend to brace myself either on the side of a table or have my hand like this. So my hand is very sturdy, my pinky knuckle is braced against the table, and I brace against my hand with my other hand's pinky. Also, when doing your nails, if you're right-handed, I suggest, if you're doing a complete manicure, unlike what I'm doing, if you're right-handed, I suggest starting by painting your entire right hand one coat, and then painting your entire left hand one coat. So you start by painting your dominant hand. So you're already using the hand that isn't as dexterous. So when you go to paint your second hand, you're not dealing with a clumsy hand and wet nails. And I always make sure to close the brush, the bottle, between coats, because there have been times where I have forgotten that it wasn't closed, and I've gone to pick it up, and I only pick up the cap, and I tend to knock the bottle over. That's not very good. And you can see this is a thermal polish, so you can already see on my nail we're having that thermal effect. It's kind of a fiery orange when it's warm at the base, and a smoky brown, nearly black when it's freezing cold at the cold tips. You want to make sure you get all the way to the corners of your nails, especially on my right hand ring finger. For some reason, I tend to miss one little sliver at the end, so always nice just to make sure before you move on to the next nail that you have completely painted it and you don't have an empty spot. There we go. Wiping off some excess. And that's why the paper towel is nice. I wiped off some excess that I got at the tip here and just wiped it onto my paper towel. I've done 3 coats of this now. I'm going to let this dry for just a minute before applying Elemental Ward. It depends on which top coat you're using, how long you should wait for top coats. Some of them you apply when your nails are still wet. Some of them you apply after they've completely dried. Mine is intended to be applied when your nails are still slightly wet. So you can still see they're still very shimmery looking. Normally what I do with Elemental Ward is I'll be painting both hands. I'll paint both hands completely, sit for just a minute or two, and then afterwards go over with Elemental Ward. That tends to be about the right amount of time. So I start with my right pinky finger, and when I'm done doing my left hand, wait for about 2 minutes, and then start from my left pinky again. Today we're trying to go a bit fast, so with Elemental Ward it's good to use a nice big blob. Since top coat's clear, it's not the end of the world if you get it a little bit on yourself. And it applies a good level of thickness, I'd say. It's not too runny, not too thick. So with larger glitters, it really helps fill in the spaces. And again, you're going to use the same method of putting a blob at the center, very near the back, and swiping from side to side. You can be a little more haphazard with the top coat because it's clear. And uh-oh, I just got a little ding in my thumb. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to lick my finger. I really hope that's not nail polish remover because I'm going to be licking my finger. I'm going to try and smudge that very, very gently. So you can do this at certain times during the painting process. Doesn't look like it's going to work with the glove, so let's remove it and try with the natural finger. You must be very gentle, just kind of coax it into place. Wow, a little too much coaxing. This is my thumb, and I'm actually going to be doing some nail art after this, so I'm just going to top coat over it. It'll help fill it in well enough. And again, using elemental words specifically, I let it sit for 5 minutes without touching anything at all. I don't pet the cats, I don't do the dishes, I sit, I watch TV or read a book, but I don't touch my nails to anything. After 5 minutes, elemental ward, at least, is good enough to be lightly brushed against things. After about 20 minutes, it's completely as if you painted them last night. So I'm going to let this dry and get back to the rest of the video in a moment. My top coat is now probably completely dry, and so I'm going to add some decals. This is just a miscellaneous sheet that I've been playing around with my vinyl cutter. So let's see, I think that spider will fit nicely on my thumb, and I think I'll do a spider web and some bats on other nails. So I'm going to start with the spider, just kind of peel it off the sheet. I'm sure I could use tweezers or something like that, but I'm just going to use my nails. Just grab a couple of those tiny little legs. Try to mostly center it. I think this is the best I'm going to get. If your top coat is still the slightest bit wet, try not to push too hard. Mine might still be a little wet, so that's why I'm being careful. And then, let's see, a spider web. Where do I want this? Yeah, I'll go with here. And I'm going to take my nail clippers and just kind of trim things down to size. So I've got it kind of tacked down slightly on the center of my nail. And I'm just going to trim the rest of it. Embroidery scissors would be good for this. Nail file, not a nail file, nail clippers is just what I happen to have available. So, try to get this chunk out of the way so I can clip the rest of the spider web. Careful not to clip your skin when you do this, but do get it close. And then over on this other side, I need to clip a tiny bit here. Here. And so I'm going to lay this down a bit more, slightly just press it in, and I should trim a bit more here. There we go. And then at the tip of the nail, trim off any excess as well. Taking care to only trim the decal and not your actual nail. There we go. And so let's see, I've got a spider, I've got a little spider web. I think I want a couple spooky bats. So I'm going to peel the bats off and just kind of toss them on there. And I'm afraid I don't have enough decals. My pinky finger doesn't get any. So now I'm going to top coat again. Just gently pressing down on all of these decals to make sure they're laying flat. And just paint over them. I have not had any issues using Elemental Ward over vinyl decals. I do suggest doing a test run if you have never used a specific brand of top coat over a specific type of decal, just because you don't want to mess up your pretty nails that you've spent so much time working on. And it looks like I got a little bubble on my ring finger. That happens with decals because they're, you know, slightly taller than your nail. So again, this is something that's going to take some practice, but it looks like I brushed that bubble out just fine. And again, let your top coat completely dry, and your nail art is done.